We are in the book of Ecclesiastes 8, verse 12. Solomon, and also known as the what? The preacher, yes, also known as the King of Israel, right? Those three titles refer to this man Solomon. We also sometimes refer to him as the wisest man ever lived as far as just a human being is concerned. And Solomon has carried on a massive experiment, hasn't he? And we're thankful that he has, because if we are individuals who can learn from others, then we have a gift in our hands, don't we? The sad part is that most people can't learn from others, can they? They have to learn it for themselves. They have to go through the school of hard knocks all for themselves. And that's sad. But Solomon went out, he tested the world, and he wanted to know one thing. What was it? The meaning of life. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And he examined that question from all kinds of standpoints, and he got a bunch of knowledge in the process. And he recorded that in 12 chapters in the book of Ecclesiastes. True or false? This book is written very orderly in nature. False. It is not. Okay? It's almost as if Solomon at times just kind of goes crazy. He'll give you 3 or 4 verses about something, and then all of a sudden he just changes the subject. And then he gives you a verse or 2 about that, and he changes the subject. And you're just going crazy trying to outline this book. And so guess what I didn't do? I didn't outline the book, okay? Because it's that hard to do. Some have done it. I just didn't just sit down and take that much time to do it. Solomon had been talking about leaders, had he not? Okay, and we went through a section of about 5 or 6 verses where he's talking about leadership and our responsibility to leadership, and that leadership has a responsibility, and that leadership is God ordained. And so we studied all of that, and then we get down to verse 12, and all of a sudden he kind of changes his subject somewhat, and he really changes it in the next couple of verses. But listen to what he says. Though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear God and which fear before Him. Wow. After the fall of man in the Garden of Eden, there was a curse that was placed upon the world, was it not? Okay. And that curse was placed here because of sin and iniquity, wasn't it? And at that time, Satan then became what we oftentimes refer to as the prince of what? The prince of this world. Paul also refers to him as the prince of the power of the air. Okay, so he controls everything within this world in which we live at this present time. Now, that does not mean that he is not subject to whom? To God, because he is. Okay? But he still has just unbelievable, untold power while he is here. True or false? Satan's efforts in the world have been unbelievably successful. That's true, isn't it? Man, it is unbelievable. And, you know, it's amazing how we kind of go through cycles, isn't it? Looks like things are getting a little bit better, and then the next thing you know, you wake up and everything's gone to pot again. Okay? And right now, we're kind of in the potty season. Okay? Or at least it feels like it, doesn't it? And things are not that great right now. But you see, man has strong fleshly desires, doesn't he? And here Satan is unleashed on the world, and he knows what those desires are. And boy, he entices them with everything he can entice them with. Okay? And sadly, man yields. and sin's committed. And therefore, our world is filled with sin. And it appears as though evil is winning, that evil prevails, doesn't it? And that's what he talks about in that first part of the verse. Okay, Solomon notes two truths about sinners that are often seen by the righteous. Here's the first one. A sinner does evil what? 100 times. Just watch them. They just sin what? Over and over and over and over and over. I won't do that 100 times. That'd get tiring, wouldn't it? But he just keeps on sinning. And we just see it over and over and over again, don't we? And notice the second thing that he says that we see. Sinners have their life on earth prolonged. Okay? You would think that an evil guy at the age of 20 or 25, surely he should be dead by 35 or 40. Shouldn't he? Surely he should be dead. Oh no. He lives to be 60, 70, 80. He's still walking around at 85 in his position of power. And you're going, oh, you got to be kidding me. Why isn't this guy dead? And we see it all the time, don't we? It's just unbelievable. Let me ask you something. Can those two things, the fact that evil men just keep doing evil with seemingly no consequence, and the fact that evil men just continue to live for a long period of time, can that have an adverse effect on us as Christians? Big time. And I wrote down some things that can cause us to do. Number one, a Christian can begin to doubt God, and especially His love and care for His people. Guys, you know, it was just prayed a few minutes ago in the prayer how good we have it in the United States of America, and we do, you know it. Can you imagine living as a nation under a harsh ruler for 200, 300, 400 years? That's a long time, isn't it? And I just couldn't imagine that. You know, just think, you're born into that at birth, and you live through that the entirety of your life until you die. Okay? And you get to see some of your children and your grandchildren suffer the same horrors of that existence. It would make you question who? God. Why God? Why? Right? And we wonder why, you know, don't you love us? Don't you care about us? Don't you have compassion on us? I mean, it just makes us doubt God. Notice secondly, an individual begins to doubt the profitability of living a life in service to God, right? If this is the way it's going to be, then why serve God? I serve Him, I'm faithful, I do what He expects of me, and guess what? Life is still miserable, and all the evil just prevails in the world. What's the use? Just throw up your hands. I'll just do like they do and just eat, drink, and what? Be merry. And then the third one, he is tempted to turn to a life of sin for himself, like we just thought. Why don't I just sin? Dutch?
The second item, we have to get the answer to Job. Because the devil was certainly unleashed on Job.
Yep.
Anything you can imagine was unleashed on Job.
It was tough.
And even though his friends told him to go against God, and he started to question, he kept his senses. And God showed favor on him for his perseverance.
Oh, absolutely. That's the reason those examples are there, is that other people have dealt with these issues and have to go through these kind of things, and we need to be like they are. Okay? It's not a matter of, oh, that's a good Bible story. It's a matter of, that's who I'm supposed to be when my time comes to be like that. I'm to be the Job. I'm to be the Joseph. I'm to be the Moses. I'm to be that person, the Daniel, or whoever it is. And it's not just a story. Okay? It's a lot more than that. But now notice point E in your outline there. Remember, Solomon has conducted a massive experiment. He has seen the very thing of which he writes, hasn't he? He's seen evil committed by sinners over and over. He has seen the lives of evil people prolonged on the earth. Therefore, he gives assurance to guess who? The followers of God. And I love the assurance. Yet surely I what? Know. Guys, remember, this is the wisest man on the earth, and this is an inspired man of God. Okay? And guess what he says? Yet surely I what? I know. There's no doubt. There's no mistaking of facts. I know this beyond a shadow of doubt. What is it, Solomon? He tells us, doesn't he? Yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear God, which fear before Him. Man, isn't that wonderful? Yes, evil prevails. Yes, evil is filling the world. Yes, Satan is the god of this world. Yes, he tempts a lot of people. Yes, people sin over and over again. Evil people live a long time, but guess what? God is with them that fear Him. Man, we got to keep that in mind, don't we? And sometimes that's not easy to do, okay? Notice that point of fear, okay? Which fear God. That first part of that verse involves the internal aspect of fear, okay? To fear God. What does that mean? No, it's not. There's a little bit of that in it, okay, but not very much. You know, when we talk about fearing God, yes, I do fear God's retribution. I do fear God's punishment of evil, but that's not the comprehensive nature of this word fear. Okay? Okay, somebody said respect. Okay? Awe. Okay, yes, to tremble. Okay? It's a deep, deep reverence. And that deep reverence involves two things about God. Number one, who He is, His nature. And number two, what He does, His works and His actions. Now folks, when you think about who God is, and you think about what God has done and what God can do, we ought to be like Jeannie just said, we ought to tremble before Him, have we not? We ought to have a deep love, a deep awe, a deep respect, a reverence for the Almighty God. And that's what he's talking about when he says in this verse, I know it shall be well with them that fear Him. If I manifest that kind of an attitude toward Him. But sometimes, even Christians don't listen to God. You know what? I'll do it my way. I'll do it how I want to. And God, you can just sit on the back burner for a while. There's no reverence in that. There's no awe in that. There's no respect in that whatsoever. Now notice this second part of the verse. Which fear what? Before Him. Okay, which fear Him. And then he goes on and he says, and which fear before Him. That inner fear, that inner reverence, that awe that I have for God manifests itself in my life. Or at least it ought to. Okay? And that's what he's talking about there. Those who fear God praise Him, serve Him, proclaim His love and His greatness to other people. You see, it's one thing for me to say, oh, I reverence God. It's easy to say that. It's easy to speak a lot of words. It's hard to live my reverence for God, isn't it? That's a whole different ball game. Okay? And folks, let me tell you what, God knows the difference. Doesn't He? You think the Pharisees in the New Testament in Jesus' day, if you asked them, do you fear God? Do you think they would have said yes? Oh, let me tell you. They'd have boasted of that, would they not? In fact, they wanted everybody under the sun to know that they feared God because of the kind of junk they did. But then, what if we had God standing beside one of them and said, hey, does this man really fear you? I wonder what the Lord would have said. I know what He would have said. Because He tells us in Matthew the 23rd chapter, you hypocrite. You've got this outward manifestation. You've got this outward show. You've got all these words, all this demonstration of what you say you think about God. And guess what? Within, you're just as filthy and vile and corrupt as you can be. No fear of me. Guys, we have to manifest our fear and our reverence for God in our outward actions. And that involves our worship. It involves our service. It involves our participation in the local congregation. It involves our love for one another. It involves our being evangelistic. It involves everything there is about living the Christian life. Because God says, if I'll fear Him, and if I will fear before Him, it will be what? Well with me. Man, I looked up that little word, well. Strong says, good in the what? In the widest sense. It will be good with you. Man. Brown, Driver, and Briggs, look at all the words they use to describe this term good. Good, pleasant, agreeable, excellent, rich, valuable in estimation, becoming, better, happy, prosperous, prosperity, happiness, moral good. Who doesn't want any of those things? Everybody says they want those things, don't they? This is the kind of life I want. Well, if that's the kind of life you want, then you better what? Fear God and fear before Him. Okay? Because it's the only way you're going to receive those true blessings in life. It will be good with you. Look at the lesson. When we look at the welfare of others, especially those who are evil, we might miss all the good and the blessings that we are experiencing from the hand of God. You know, sometimes we watch others way too much, don't we? Get your eyes off other people, folks, and focus on who? Focus on moi. Focus on me. And guess what? The more you start looking about what's actually happening in your life and what you're receiving and what you're getting, you might be surprised at how good God is, all because you're what? Being faithful and fearing God. Okay? That's the key. Fearing God. Questions, comments, anybody? Nobody? Now see, I give you opportunity and you don't say anything. But when I'm talking, you want to talk about everything. I'm just kidding with you. All right, let's look at verse 13. But, don't you love that word? There's sometimes when I hear the word but, I can't stand it. Okay, I'm serious. Because it's a conjunction of contrast and sometimes you go, oh, no. Not the but again. But in this particular situation, what did he just say? It will be well with who? Them that fear God. But it shall not be well for who? For the wicked. Wow. Neither shall he prolong his days, which are a shadow, because he feareth not before God. Solomon corrects the incorrect thinking on the part of some when he writes, but it shall not be well with the wicked. We just think that, don't we? Usually when we think of the wicked, we think of maybe one or two people, don't we? That we have in our mind as being wicked. Maybe they're a part of our life, right? Somehow they're in association with us and they're giving us a lot of bad times. They're making our life difficult, making our life hard. We say, oh, that wicked person, but just look at him. He's got everything he wants. Life is easy for him. He's going to live to be 200 years old. And we just think all this stuff. And we fail to look at the totality of the who. The totality of the wicked. Go out there and look at all of the wicked. Okay? Not just one or two. Look at all of the wicked. And Solomon's thinking will become our thinking. But it shall not be well with the wicked. Okay? True or false? The wicked have family problems. You think they do? Let me tell you something, folks. Go out there and get in the home of a wicked person and see how hard his family life is. It ain't good. You know it? It is not good. Do you think they struggle with financial struggles? Oh, yeah. They struggle with the same financial issues that you and I struggle with. You think they have to face sickness and death? Yeah. They face some sickness and death just like we do. Do they have their enemies? They got more enemies than we got. You know it? And they have to worry about those enemies constantly, don't they? Do they have to face difficult decisions in their life? Yeah. You see, for some reason, we look at the wicked and we just automatically assume they've got it made. That's not true. We got to readjust our thinking. Everything is not well with the wicked. They have the same problems, the same struggles that you and I do, and oftentimes on a... he read his dictionary this morning. On a grander scale. I wouldn't have said that. I'd have just said on a gooder scale or something like that. But on a grander scale than we do. And that's true, isn't it? Man. Notice that he says that the wicked will not what? The wicked will not prolong his days on the earth. The reality is this. The average age of a man and a woman is somewhere around 70 to 80 years old. You know that? And that average involves good people and who? Bad people. And there's more bad than good, and they're the ones who almost set the what? Set the average, don't they? Guys, go back and study the lives of wicked people and see how long some of them really lived. Alexander the Great died at 35 years old. He was a wicked man. Okay? Go back and study some of the lives of the Caesars. Go back and study some of the lives of the wicked kings of Israel and see how old they were when they died. They weren't old men. Okay? Wicked people many, many times die young in life. You know that? I'll guarantee you. We just have a tendency to think they got it made and think that everything's wonderful with them. And Solomon says, that's wrong thinking. Okay? That's a bunch of garbage. Oh yes, they do die some horrifying deaths. You're absolutely right. Okay? The wicked are not blessed because they do not fear God. Their lives will come to an end. They will have to ultimately stand before God where? In judgment. And as it is appointed unto man once to die, and after this what? The judgment. We got to get away from stinking thinking. You know what? That's what we used to call it in counseling, stinking thinking. As long as your thinking is wrong, everything's wrong with you. You know what? When you get your thinking right, everything starts turning around and everything looks a whole lot better. I want to be what? I want to fear God. Why? Because it will be well with me. I do not want to be wicked because it will not be well with the wicked. That's the words of Solomon, the inspired writer of Ecclesiastes. Now, either I can believe that or I can reject that, can I? Beverly, what were you going to say? Thank the Lord. I am messing with you, okay? I am messing with you. What were you going to say? You'll remember it about halfway into this next verse. You don't have bad... You want to know why? Because you fear the Lord. Don't you? You fear the Lord. And don't ask her age, but she has prolonged her days. Okay?
He's above average.
She is above average. It's a blessing, isn't it? Michael. No, they don't. You're... She has 100 people tell her, Beverly, you better wear that oxygen, girl. We're glad you're here. That's all I know. Now, all of a sudden, we get to Ecclesiastes 8:14, and it seems as though Solomon's brain just goes crazy. Okay? He changes the subject totally and completely, and you're going, where did you get this? Okay? There is a vanity which is done upon the earth. There's a what? A vanity. What's a vanity? What does vanity mean? It's only the theme of the book. Something that's empty, pointless, useless, seems unnecessary, right? He said, here he has been talking about rulers, been talking about evil people, and then all of a sudden he just makes this statement. There is a vanity which is done upon the earth. Now listen to it. That there be just men, unto whom it happened according to the work of the wicked. Again, there be wicked men, to whom it happeneth according to the work of the righteous. I say that this also is what? Vanity. Uh-oh. Now it seems like he just changes everything he just said, doesn't it? Okay? What in the world is he talking about? Notice what we have in point A. We all have preconceived ideas about the way life should happen, both to ourselves and to others, don't we? Okay. What you mentioned the book of Job a while ago. In Job's day, there was a belief. It was a false belief, but it was a belief that if bad things happened to you, it was because you had to have sinned. Okay? You had to have sinned against God. If you hadn't sinned against God, your life would be wonderful. So here Job is. He's afflicted to the nth degree. And all of his little counselors come. And you know what they say? Job, what'd you do? Come on, Job. Fess up. If you hadn't done something bad, none of this would be happening. And deep in Job's mind, Job knows what? I ain't done nothing. And that you read almost every chapter where his friends talk, at least one line, sometimes 2 or 3 lines, they'll ask you, what's going on? What have you done? This wouldn't be happening if you weren't wicked. Okay? And that was Job's dilemma, wasn't it? Okay? So we can develop these preconceived ideas, and we do that with life, don't we? If I'm righteous, if I'm good, if I'm God-fearing, if I'm living the way God wants, everything ought to be roses. Well, y'all are thinking just the way I am today. Roses. But if I'm wicked and if I'm evil and I'm mean, everything ought to be horrible. Not necessarily. Job says this is one of the vanities of life. This is one of those things that causes us to shake our heads about life and wonder about life. Okay? It's one of those vanities that sometimes we just can't get a grasp on. Notice what he says. He starts with just men. But there be just men unto whom it happeneth according to the work of the wicked. Man. Good men have hardships. Good men have prolonged illness. Good men cannot seem to get out of a deep hole in life. Good men have family issues. Good men have family problems. Good men have enemies. Good men die early. That ain't the way it's supposed to happen. At least we think, don't we? But it's true. And some of us in this audience can attest to that, can't we? But notice the second part of the statement. He says, again, there be wicked men to whom it happeneth according to the work of the righteous. Wow. Wicked men become wealthy. Wicked men live lives free from disease and illness. Wicked men have few hardships. Wicked men live long lives. And it causes us to wonder, doesn't it? Folks, it's just a part of what? It's just a part of life under the sun. Okay? You ever heard this statement? That's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Okay? And guess what? all the worrying and all the complaining and all the fighting against God isn't going to change one iota. You know that? And you can give your soul up if you want to, because you can't rectify and harmonize that. But guess what? It's never going to do. It's never going to change that. Jeannie? That's what he said, didn't he? Absolutely. I said that this also is vanity. We can complain about dichotomy, but it will not change. It is just one of the what? Vanities of the world, folks. But notice, he did tell us this what? A righteous life is better than an evil one. Okay? A righteous life, and these are the things we have to remember. A righteous life is always better than an evil one. Secondly, I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you're righteous or unrighteous. Life is short. You know it? Life is short. There's others in here that are a lot older than I am. I'm 64 now. And what's that? I did have a birthday. I don't remember getting a gift. But now see, you're getting me off my point. What's the average age of a man? About 77, 78 years old, somewhere around there. Guys, I've got 13 or 14 years to live if I live a full life. I could die before then. Man, I don't have much time here. You know it? And how fast it's gone. You know, you look back and say, man, I remember when I was 35 telling my daughter, you know, man, in 25 years I'll be 70. She said, shut up. Well, now I've got to say, in 6 years I'll be 70. She really says, shut up. Life is what? Life is short. And notice the third point. The wrongs of this life will be addressed in the world to come. They will be addressed, folks. The righteous will be rewarded, and the wicked will be what? Punished. Okay? Just remember those 3 points. Righteous is better than wicked. Life is short. And one day, God will justify everything and make it all right, won't He? If we can remember that, we can live good lives, can't we? Hopefully we can. All righty. I always leave one verse for some reason. Okay? But we will try to finish this chapter up next week if everything goes well. Thank you.